this video, we're going to look at VPN AAS and talk about the benefits and considerations for migration. So what is VPN AAS? It's basically VPN as a service, something that's hosted without having to deploy traditional VPN appliances. So what are some of the advantages? One, scalability. VPN as a service allows organizations to quickly and easily scale up and down without having to buy, rack, stack hardware. It's also cost effective. You don't need to buy the hardware, the licenses, you don't have to rack, stack. It's all in the cloud for you. You just have to basically configure, and typically support is bundled in. It's easily accessible because usually these are cloud-based, so they're deployed everywhere. You can access them from anywhere you want, and there's also typically POPs in China for organizations that have offices there and need to get past the Great Firewall. There's also easy management. So VPN as a service, there's typically a central place to administer the whole infrastructure, and this just frees up IT resources to do other tasks. From a security perspective, VPN as a service, there's usually more robust security measures. Think about what you have to do today for the VPN appliance from a firewall perspective. All of that stuff is taken care of for you. And when deploying updated ciphers, all that stuff can be done without having to upgrade or install any FIPS modules or anything like that. VPN as a service is also very flexible, meaning there's a wide range of options and configurations. It really allows you to deploy this as you wish in many different places. In terms of deployment, rapid deployment is also another huge benefit to VPN as a service. Typically, you can get a VPN as a service system up and running in minutes. These can be deployed using like virtual appliances in marketplaces, or just a few sets of commands that run on your standard Linux boxes. Now let's take a look at some considerations when migrating. So the first one is the network architecture. You can basically deploy a VPN as a service in many different ways. A lot of times, most of the components are cloud-based, and then there might be a connector that you have to deploy, and these connectors can run anywhere on-prem or in your cloud service provider. You should also think about bandwidth requirements. Some VPN as a service have limitations depending on what you want to do. You have to make sure that those bandwidth requirements can be met using something in the cloud, and you're not going to be charged extra for bandwidth consumption. The next consideration is, can the VPN as a service integrate with your existing systems? You probably have things for authentication, maybe MDM and EDR, so you want to make sure what you're migrating to can also support that stuff. You don't want to have to take a step back. Data privacy and regulations. If you are in an industry that requires some compliance, you want to make sure that data is stored where you think is best. And you also want to make sure that your corporate data isn't being decrypted, analyzed, and then re-encrypted. This is often happening with organizations that are SWIG-led, meaning they initially had a SWIG and they decrypt all the traffic. You also want to make sure that the VPN as a service has a client or agent on the platforms that you are using today. Sometimes you'll see that the new offering is desktop only, or it's missing like a Linux application or agent. You want to also make sure that the new VPN as a service has some training. I mean, typically these should be very easy to deploy, but in the cases they're not, you need to train your IT team so that they can deploy rather quickly. And in the scenarios where something happens, you also want to check on support. Some organizations have requirements for in-region support. You might be looking for the ability to call support rather than email or Slack them. So these are just things to consider. To learn more about Banyan Security's VPN as a service, please visit us at www.banyansecurity.io to schedule a demo and talk to one of our excellent reps. Thank you.